Let's see, Joe. Let's need to get you mic'd up. Where is Joe? Okay. Okay, Lou, at some point, these batteries are going to go out. So I want to be sure that these cameras are offline when I have to change the batteries. It's 1 o'clock, Joe. Joe, would you like to get a mic on? See, we're going to get some noise, folks. There's nothing I can do about it. Yes, it's 1 o'clock. Time to get started. Things to do, places to go, and people to meet. There you go. How's that? We're a little slow getting started today online, folks. Having some noise problems. We're getting feedback because I'm plugged into the other system. We couldn't plug into the system we normally plug into. Oh, that'd be great. Thanks, Bob. Oh, you couldn't figure it out either. Glad I didn't try and take a look at it. Folks, this is a live meeting. Sometimes things go right, sometimes things go wrong, but things always go. We're working on it. Have a seat, Joe. We're having some audio problems on this end. I don't think it's going to affect you guys on that end. Just a few updates. This is Builder Buy. We meet every Wednesday from 1 to 3. We talk about building, buying, and upgrading computers. We have some new people here today, I think. Andrew brought his niece, granddaughter, great niece, and she is helping Lou to run the switch. So this should be interesting. And I also got the graphics running, so I can take that offline. Here we go. Joe's got some things he's going to share with us. We'll start with. We'll come back to some of the technology news. Philip Tan has got his laptop we're going to be upgrading. Babb is going to tell us about her new laptop and where she's at with status. John Lumb, we're going to talk to him a little bit about his computer that he's building. You know, when things go right, great. When they don't, sometimes things take a little bit longer. So, Joe, you got some information you're going to share with us?
Yeah, I just wanted, I had a call from our friend George Walker the other day, and we talked about laptops, because he brought one of those Hyundai Protocol X8s, like a couple of us here have, and he assured me that that was Windows 10 Home on there. So I went to the page and looked at it. Sure enough, it said Windows 10 Home. So I said, well, that should help some, but it's not changing a lot of the problems I'm having. For instance, on Windows 10, if I right-click on the screen, just put my screen up. If I right-click on the screen, I get this menu here, and so I can open up a new folder. And then when I get the folder, I can open it up. On my little laptop, or my little Hyundai, there is no right-click capability on that screen as far as I can see.
Wow.
At least I haven't been able to find it yet. I'm still in the stages of looking around. Now, George has already figured out how to get rid of
The tiles?
And go to the screen that we all use now normally, or I use now normally. I'm trying to get this on my other one, because if I get this far, then I might be able to figure out how to get a new folder up there. Because that seems to be the only way I can add new programs, is bring them in from the thumb drive, put them on a folder, and run them from there.
Interesting.
Sometimes I can run them from a thumb drive, and sometimes I can't. So,
Can we get a mic over there on, he's coming. This will be number 3, Lou.
It's a Windows tablet, right?
Closer.
It's a Windows tablet?
it's a Windows tablet. It's a Windows 10 tablet,
Right.
and it's got the 6.
I have a Windows tablet too that's older, and the closest I can get to right click is to put your finger on what it is you want to do and just hold it there for a moment, and you get a little box, and sometimes you get the little box that you normally get when you right click.
Okay, but I've got a mouse hooked up to it.
A mouse? Yeah, if the mouse doesn't hook, that's weird that the mouse isn't working.
Yeah, it's a Bluetooth mouse, and it's running. The mouse is doing fine, and it's maybe it's a mouse. I don't know. I doubt it, but I can try that. But
Try it with your finger without the mouse,
Yeah.
and or even with the mouse hooked up for that matter. But the fact that the mouse isn't working may mean that there's something somewhere in it that needs to be turned on or off or something.
I think it's probably a setting or something. Like I say, I should be able to get to a page like you see up there. You know, is that it up there? No. Okay.
You're back up.
You should be able to see my home page like this, and give me the ability to right click and select what I want to do. I can't do that. So anyway, I did manage to clean up some of my some of the what do they call them, tiles on my tablet, in that I got rid of some of the ones I don't use, and I added some that I will use, and so that's getting more personal, but still, right now it's a very slow machine.
Excuse me, it's hard to hear you back here, Joe.
Hard to hear him. We're having to be careful so we don't get feedback in here.
I hate to say this, but can you hear me now? Now? Huh?
We had to take the speakers and turn them sideways
Can
because
you hear me now? Yes, that's better. Well, okay. I'll just do this for a while then. I'm not into piercings. Okay. Okay, as I said, I'm trying to get to the point where I can clean up my desktop over there on that laptop and learn how to right-click and get this, because I want to put folders on my desktop that are not here. And I really don't like the idea of those tiles being up all the time, because they get in the way. They serve no purpose. Gone again? I got to hold it this close to my mouth? I might as well eat it.
we're using a different audio system today, folks.
Yeah, I guess
We're
so.
lucky to have audio.
Okay, next time pay the bills, Gil.
Yeah, really. Details.
Okay, anyway, that's what I wanted to say, and I got to thank George Walker for showing me some of those tricks, and I'll be talking to him again this week or next, because that tablet at home is getting to be a process. I had it laid it right there next to my briefcase and my lunch, and I walked off without it. So,
And George, if you're watching online, sometime we'll do Skype sometime if you'd like, so you can participate and be right here with us. Something to think about.
yeah, okay, that's all I wanted to report at this point.
Okay, Joe, if you don't mind, can we bring up on your computer the browser to build or buy?
Okay.
Go-
Okay.
Bring up your browser, and then let's go to build or buy for the talking points. And we're going to go over to, just go to build or buy, if you don't mind. Since I've got the graphics on screen running, I'm not able to use the computer that I used to do that with. I hadn't thought through the process of how many computers are required.
.org.
Either one, .org, .net.
Okay.
Builderby.org or builderby.net. Let's
I'm
scroll
on
down.
.org.
Yeah, let's scroll down. That'll work. Okay, let's go over there. Thank you. Let's go on down. Okay. That's good. What I want to do is start with Philip Tan's laptop. Philip, are you ready to proceed with where you're at? You're going to have to both use the same mic, so we're going to have to swap out with Joe.
Oh, this is going to be fun.
We need another mic.
Are you into lip piercing? Are you into lip piercing?
Okay, Philip, we're going to be upgrading your laptop. Tell us now, you've got an HP.
Yeah, I got an HP 350, and I've been getting frustrated because it took about 3-4 minutes just to boot up, basically. So I'm trying to replace my spinner with a SSD.
Okay, Luke, keep me for a backup shot. And let's go to his computer, which is on number 1. Okay, thank you. So you've got an HP laptop that has a spinner, a 7200 RPM hard drive?
5400.
5400 RPM, wow.
Yeah.
And you're going to put an SSD in there.
Right.
Fantastic. Have you cloned it yet?
No.
You're getting ready to clone it.
Right.
Okay, you want Joe to show you what to do? Have you downloaded the software?
Yeah.
Okay, let's call it up then and let's run it. We'll have Joe sitting over your shoulder. I'll get this where Joe won't be seen. Joe's incognito.
Oh. Okay.
And Joe's going to tell you what to do. Okay, so you're going to bring up the program. Which one are we using? Macrium Reflect?
Right.
Okay, so let's bring up Macrium Reflect.
Yes.
You got it? We may need it for Joe. Okay, good idea. Here you go, Joe. You can hang on to that one.
Okay.
You can do the email registration if you want, or you can do it later.
Oh.
Hit them. Remind me in 30 days.
Okay.
Yeah, remind me later. Okay. You want to do the recovery media, but not right now. Okay, so, oh, we have an update.
Go ahead and
Should
take it down.
I would take the update, I agree.
Okay.
So while we're waiting on the update, what we're going to do is look at the existing drive, and we're going to clone from the existing drive in the machine to the SSD. And you've got a bracket where the SSD is plugged into a USB port.
Right.
Are we on a USB 2 or USB 3? Well, anyway, we're on a USB port. If we're on a USB 3, it'll go a whole lot faster. If it's on USB 2, it's going to take a while.
I don't remember if this laptop is 2 or 3, to be honest
Oh,
with you.
laptop may not take it, okay? We're going to find out. As I look at the ports, see if I see anything on the side. These are USB 2 ports on this side. Don't know about that side. How old is the laptop? More than 4 years old?
3-4 years old.
It's borderline.
Yeah. I remember the main reason I bought it was because this got a i7
It's got an i7 in it.
and a 1 terabyte drive.
Then that should have a USB 3 port. We'll find out. So it's downloading the update right now. How far along are we? Any progress?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Get ready to install. Remember, folks, this is live. Okay, so how are we doing? Next step. Go ahead and do the install. And where's it at?
I think you have to restart Macrium.
See if we've got it.
Yes.
Okay. We're going to clone the disk.
Okay.
Select the disk to clone to, which will be the other drive.
Just drop this one by one.
Yeah. Click and drag.
Oh,
Didn't get the other two.
Well,
I think this is the only two that I need.
how big is it? How big is a hard drive?
512.
And how big is this? Samsung?
There's a this is 512.
Keep that where we can hear you.
This is 512.
And what was inside the computer?
1 terabyte, except that I only have a 300 gig of data in it.
Okay, we've got a recovery partition that you're not going to bring over, and the HP tools that you're not going to bring over. So you just want to, what do you think, Joe?
Let me put,
I think these two are the one that's
That's all you want?
right.
Okay. If you put a check mark on those other two at the top, they'll come over.
yeah, the first ones have to come down. First two have to come down.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Okay,
this-
now just do that.
Go ahead and click finish, or next. Go ahead and click next. Now go ahead and click finish. Let's see how long this is going to take.
This isn't an incremental backup, is it?
No, it's a full clone.
It's a full clone.
It's a full clone
Okay.
because remember we're going to take one drive out. And that's why we're cloning, so we can take it out and start with a new drive. So that's going to take a little while. So while we're watching progress on that, however long it's going to take, I want to go to talking points on Joe's computer. And Joe is number
5.
right there, 5. Thank you. Okay. Some interesting things going on with technology. So I'm at a little bit of a loss since I don't have it over my shoulder. I'm going to have to read this from the program window. Anybody keeping track of the trade shows lately? Anybody? Well, there's more than one going on. I'm going to start at the bottom and work our way to the top. Kind of strange that the top one is, I don't know. It is what it is. Anybody keeping track of cameras? There are 3 new professional cameras coming out that should really, I think, in my opinion, change the industry. Sony's coming out with one, yet to be determined on what the specs are. Canon has announced one. They have announced the specs. And Panasonic has announced one with specs. And we're talking cameras in the $8,000 range. So you've got a camera that you then buy a lens and put to. The Canon has an EOS C200, and it's going to be an amazing camera for the money, and I think it looks good, but I think Panasonic's camera is going to be above this. I think, in my opinion, Canon is shooting low where Panasonic is shooting high. What I'm curious about is what's going to happen when we get to see what Sony's coming out with. So that's just a matter of time. But I mentioned those 3 cameras. There's some articles there you can take a look at. How are we doing on progress over there? 25%?
Well, no,
20%?
that's
30%? Anyway, we're
Yeah.
not there yet.
overall.
Okay.
Overall percentage is what we have to worry about,
Okay.
and that still says 0 because this is.
Computex is one trade show that's been going on right now, and there's some links from Tom's Hardware that'll give you some information on Computex. Some interesting things coming out. We'll go back over the talking points. AMD is going to have the new APU with a Ryzen and a Vega mobile chip. Now, all this stuff is taking time to come play out, and I'm eager to see what it's going to be. But based on the laptops we've seen, last week we talked about a couple of Ryzen machines. So now we're talking about a Ryzen machine with a Vega video chipset. Also, Amazon Prime, Digital Trends has some interesting things. They're talking about putting a parachute into the shipping label. So it tells you what's going on, what they're trying to do. EVGA has announced their X299 motherboards. Remember, the new Intel platform is the X99 we talked about last week. So you're going to start seeing the new X299 chipset. And speaking of chipsets, there's a new let's get a mic over to John Lumb because I want to talk to him about his computer in just a second. While we're getting there, there's a new weather site. Any of y'all keep track of the weather? Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it. AccuWeather, weather. Well, there's a new site called Weather, The Weather, and I've got it up on I keep trying to grab the mouse, but I'm really over here. TheWeather.com, it's a new weather site, so you might take a look at it and see what you think of it. I've got a link up on YouTube to a video from Panasonic Business about that new camera from the Cinegear Expo 2017. So we talked about Computex, Cinegear. Apple's having their trade show right now. We'll get to it in a little bit. How we doing?
That's a seat right there.
Been pretty good so far. Okay. And Tech Connect, for those that are interested in a DVR for the cord cutters, there's a link up on Tech Connect for that. And also how to do a liquid CPU cooler, closed loop. Anybody done anything with CPU coolers other than the fans like we've always done? Remember, I put a Corsair in this machine, and Dwayne made an interesting comment that I kind of thought, you know, you're right, but I never thought of it that way. All these liquid cooling machines have fans. Fans make noise, and also fans require electricity. Well, this cooling machine that I've got with the Corsair on the Ryzen has 2 fans on that radiator. Now, the noise is not objectionable to me, but then again, a hovercraft wouldn't bother me, as long as it'll render, as long as it'll do what I want. But some of the new machines we're talking about and some of these specs, they've got fans, so it's something to keep in mind. There's also some information about home security, and I've got a link up here for a guide to the updates for Windows 10. Y'all know there's a new version of Windows 10 coming out. Okay, right now most of us are still waiting on the Creators Update. The next one coming down the pike is the Creators Update, fall, which should be about September. Now, we've got the Windows Creators Update on Lou's machine. I've got it on a machine. Does anybody else have the Creators Update running? What do you think so far?
I like it.
You like it, Joe?
I like it, yes.
Jack, you like it? You know, I'm all about, is it going to make things easier for me, or is it going to be an impedance to what I'm doing? Oh, and that reminds me, Andrew, this is an interesting point about Windows 10. That old machine that you got that we were talking about doing a disk for, I got to thinking about, okay, these are old machines, and we need to get an operating system on them. So I got a disk to you, and then I realized they don't have a 64-bit processor. So my concern was, since they don't have a 64-bit processor, and those machines at the time they were designed, I think XP was the operating system. So the question is, do we go forward a little bit? Do we stay in the rear? Or do we come all the way forward? And what I'm getting at is I want to go and pull up a link on Joe's computer for the specifications. We'll bring up another tab on Joe's computer. Let's go do a search for the specifications for Windows 10. Let me do it. You want to do it?
Go ahead.
Thanks. Specs for 10.
Usually have 20.
Oh well, it's coming. Okay, Windows 10 specs and system requirements. The requirements are pretty meager. If we look at the requirements for this based on what you have on the age of those machines, I think we could put Windows 10 on those machines, but here's the point. You got to get a license for whatever you're going to put on them. Why buy an old license unless you already have one, do you? No. Okay, well, if we've got to get licenses, why don't we get new licenses? Because the issue is going to be about drivers. And the reason I got to thinking about this, somebody else had a laptop that we were trying to figure out how to get drivers for, and it was a Vista machine. Forgot who that was. I've had my heads in too many directions. And because of the issues with drivers, again, it's the same thing. It was a gateway computer. Does anybody remember who that was? Oh, that was okay. It's hardware from an older era. Now, Robert Collier kicking and screaming says, I'm not going to do Windows 10. Anybody kicking and screaming, it's just a matter of time. So with this machine you've got to do, we have nothing to lose. What I suggest is we need an ISO of Windows 10. Because of the age of the computers, they will not boot from a USB drive. So what I need to do is create an ISO of Windows 10 with Windows 10 32-bit. Let's install it, see if it picks up all the hardware so we have all the drivers. Are you game?
Yeah, that'll work.
If it works, then we'll get the licenses to keep it on there. If it doesn't work, then all we've spent is some time. But after going through this in my head with those other computers, I thought, let's try that. You game?
Yeah, I'll be happy to.
Now, I don't have the disk. I have a thumb drive. I'll have to create the ISO. I shot some video a few days ago, and somebody asked me when you're going to have those up. I said in a couple of days. Well, that was that was supposed to be Sunday, and here we are Wednesday. So it'll be next weekend before I have that video done. I ran into some issues with it, so I didn't get a chance to get that done. Oh, and I was going to send you an address to something.
Not a problem.
Well, the hurrier I go, the behinder I get. But I'll get you a Windows 10 for next time. Because you're not in a hurry to do the machines right now, are you?
No, and I know you're running by the seat of your pants.
Sometimes it seems like it. But it takes all of us to make this work. But I just got to thinking, as we look at the specs for Windows 10, I think if we go down that road, you've probably got 2 gigs of RAM in those machines? Or do you know?
It's probably less than that.
Maybe a gig? Okay. Well, if we've got a 1 gigahertz processor and a gig of RAM, and if we've got probably enough hard drive space, those might have 100 gig hard drives in them.
It has a 500 gig.
500 gig?
Yeah, 500 gig hard drive.
Okay. If it's got a 500 gig hard drive, then we'll have enough space with 16 gigs for the operating system. The graphics card, we'll see what happens. So I say let's give it a shot. So I'll get you an ISO for that. I've always said keep it around handy, but I haven't made one yet lately of the 32-bit. I'll get you one.
If he's going to run 32-bit, it's got to be, with 1 gigabyte, it's got to go 32-bit.
Yeah. So I'll get you a 32-bit, probably Windows Home for those. Windows 10 Home, 32-bit. Work?
Yeah, that'll work. I have to get that learning experience in there too.
Well, see, that's my thinking as well. You don't know this stuff until you try it, and I think because of driver issues, that could breathe some new life into those machines. So it's something to think about. So I'll get the disk for
And
it.
if you want to cut down on the learning curve, then run a program called Classic Shell.
Yes. Yes.
Then it will look just like Windows 7.
Yeah.
And you don't have to learn anything new.
Make Windows 10 look like Windows 7. Is the machine going to be for you, or is it going to be for somebody else?
No, it's be for me. I was gonna hook it up to the TV.
Oh, nice. Okay. Nice. Then maybe we can run movies off of it or whatever. Those little MP4 things and MKV files that we're always talking about. Okay. Let me go back over here to Joe's computer. And I'm going to go back over to Talking Points. So I'm going to go back over here to Build or Buy. Now, let's see. There is, we're always into little PCs. I've got an Intel NUC. We've seen what Gigabyte is doing. Well, I got a link up now from Tech Connect also on the Raven Z. It's an interesting little computer if you're interested in something that's small, but this is more of a proof of concept computer, but it's got some interesting things in it. So if you're interested in a small computer that doesn't take a lot of space, take a look at it. I hope it's something we'll see more of. I think it was a proof of concept at the trade show. But the rare talent was it had dedicated graphics. Corsair's got a mouse pad that you can charge your mouse wirelessly. NVIDIA's coming out with a device holodeck, which to me was kind of interesting because, you know, some of the stuff we've seen where remodeling, doing cabinets, all that stuff done with virtual reality, this is another step in that direction where I think doctors are going to be doing some of that kind of stuff where they're doing operations on 3D models that they've done on a 3D printer and some of that working in virtual reality. It's just some wild stuff. Anybody do MIDI? Anybody use MIDI? You know, musical instrument device interpretation? Musical instruments, virtual synthesizers. Cakewalk is 30 years old. They're having their 30th anniversary. I didn't know we'd been doing that this long. Kind of takes you back when you think about it. But I put a link up on that because last week or two, we talked about, maybe it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, we talked about MP3. MP3 is now going to be free. There's not going to be a licensing issue because Fraunhofer, that had that technology, has released it into the wild. So I put this up about Cakewalk because if you go to Cakewalk and you're using their product like Sonar, they've got a free update so you can now export MP3s and not have to pay a royalty fee for the plug-in for it.
Can I go back to something for
Yes,
just
ma'am.
a second?
Yes, ma'am.
You talked, Joe, about classic shell.
Yes, ma'am.
There's something in the Windows menu that says Windows PowerShell. What is that?
That's different.
Click on it. That's a DOS program. Look at it. Just click on it.
Leave a backup, Lou. Something
Yes.
like that. Lou, that's not it. That's not it, Lou. You got us totally lost.
Oh, that's all it is. Yeah.
That's
okay.
not all it is. That's
Oh,
a very
that kind of shell.
That's a
all
very
right.
powerful program.
You say it is?
Yes, yes, if you're into the command line. I made a comment one day, if you guys want to get into that, we will. But somebody said, let's don't go down that road. And I'm kind of inclined to agree.
Okay.
But there may be a time when we may do some of that.
It's more from the techier side of
It's very geeky.
computing.
Okay, I'm going to go back over here now
Jack?
to the talking points. Tom's Hardware, some more information about Computex. And I got a couple links up here from Dwayne. Yes, Jack?
Speaking of command line and PowerShell, something I would like to take a look at with your expertise is the Linux, the raw Linux availability in Windows 10 now.
You want to get into that sometime?
Yeah.
We could do that.
What do you mean by available and when? I'm lost.
You can go to the command line and forgotten what it is. You type in a word, and it brings up a basic Linux
That's
operating system.
That's PowerShell, I think.
Don't think it's PowerShell. I think it's separate, but I could be wrong.
Send me an email on that, and we'll do
Okay,
some
I
of that.
haven't read about it in some weeks. I'll do that.
Okay, send me an email. That'll help. I don't have the ability to send myself an email today because the way I'm configured, it's a little bit different animal today. Okay. Dwayne sent us a link on Liquid Cooler. Robert Collier sent us a new browser bug, and this browser bug is crashing Windows machines. If you got Windows 7 or Windows 8.1, if someone has a page that has that information on it, it can crash your machine. So it's something to think about. And I've also got a link up in here from, I believe it was Malwarebytes, that talks about how this crypto virus was able to propagate to everybody's machines. Something to think about. Okay.
Gil,
Yes, sir.
you mentioned Windows 8.1.
Yes, sir.
If you got it on the machine, can you update to 10?
Yes.
Is there any cost?
No, the license should go right on over.
Still?
Yes, it will. Yes, it will.
I thought they canceled. They said they were going to cancel that last July.
That's what they said.
They never did.
It still works.
Okay.
Give it a
Thank you.
shot.
Thank you.
From now on, we need to keep these full length. Y'all give me just a minute while I reset this so I can get over the top of stuff. Too many things going on today. Okay. Yes, sir. Probably do. Don't put me on screen. Lou's running the switch, folks, and she doesn't have any help. Excuse me, she does. It's just the two ladies. Two ladies as opposed to four men. Yes. You know, I always said it was going to take 3 people to run that switch. I just didn't plan all 3 of them doing the same thing. Oh, I tell you, this is awkward. I keep forgetting I'm on Joe's computer. So let's see, AV tools. Not that this is something most people are interested in, but since I mentioned 3 professional cameras, I'm going to mention a professional monitor. This is a 19-inch monitor with an armored casing on it, and it's not just a monitor, but it can do color grading. It's also a switch. It's also a recorder. And the company that has it, I need to go back to the browser and don't go to that screen, Lou, because there's nothing there. She's doing it again. Right there, Lou. And leave me a backup shot. Okay. Breaks my train of thought. It's called an Atom OS Sumo. It's a 4K 60p HDR 19-inch monitor recorder. If you're interested in the technology, it's something to take a look at. That would work for either one of the professional cameras to record outside the camera to get the high quality. For example, the Panasonic camera is not a 4K camera, it's a 5.7K, and that's for the color space to be able to do 10-bit 422. Once that feature is enabled to record outside of the camera, that's the kind of recorder you'd use to do that with. But if you're buying an $8,000 camera, guess what the lens is going to cost? Whole nother story. I'm just talking about the technology because you don't know how long it takes for this stuff to filter down to us mere mortals. Red Shark has a couple of interesting articles, one about the new Intel i9, and they've also got an article about the Canon. They're gung-ho about that Canon camera, but read and listen to the information about the Panasonic camera. Personally, I'm a fan of Canon, but I'm more excited about that Panasonic camera because when something like that comes out professionally, I'm eager to see how long it's going to take before it comes down to the consumer market. Right now, if someone were to say, if I want a 4K camera, what's it going to cost? I'd say, do you want 4K 30 or do you want 4K 60? If you want 4K 60, it's $5,000. If you want 4K 30, you can get that for around $1,000. Not the same. Absolutely not the same. Okay. If anybody's into software synths, IK Multimedia's come out with a new one. And then there's an article on Extreme Tech about the AMD 7. You know, it's interesting. Lou built a Ryzen 7 1700. I built a Ryzen 7 1800X. Well, now they're going to drop the prices on them. Getting ready for the new CPU that's coming out. So I just throw that out there. Somebody else had said, I don't want to buy one of those until the price comes down. I said, well, and then somebody else said, what about the deals? I said, well, that's a good idea. Well, that's an even better deal. Prices are going to come down. Good machine to build. Now, I've got an article here from the Windows Experience blog. Microsoft sends this out on some of their information. And this is about the Build 2017, the Windows 10 Fall Creators Update. If you want to read about it, there's a link to it. Tom's Hardware. I've got a link up right now on the NVIDIA video chip technology. You know, if I'm going to buy a laptop, there's certain things I'm looking for. And that's what I want to get this to so we get back to Philip Tan because we're still cloning that machine. But there's certain things I'm looking for in a laptop, and I have a certain list that I go, like, say, my top 5. And if I flip those, it, you know, change one thing changes everything. But the video on a laptop is extremely important to me because I need a laptop to do 3 things, which are maybe odd to you, but unique for this. I need to be able to run the switch, which is pretty easy. Sometimes, maybe not. I need it to be able to stream. So for that, I want an i7 or equivalent. And the third thing I want is to be able to render graphics. Now, personally, I would prefer 4 gig dedicated video. And that's somewhat of the issue. So the reason I mentioned this about the chipset, this is a new mobile chipset that NVIDIA is coming out with. So if I'm looking at a new laptop, I've got the options of, I'm not interested in Intel video. That just 2 gigs doesn't work. I want NVIDIA. So if I'm going to do NVIDIA, do I want the NVIDIA like you have on a desktop, or do I want this new mobile chip? If I'm using it to render, I want the equivalent of the desktop chip. So I'm just throwing that out there if you're looking as these new chips start coming out. And that's what that link is about. Let's see. How many browsers do we have we're using right now? Everybody's using Google Chrome. I kind of gave my piece on that last week about what's happening with Thunderbird and Firefox. Something weird. Anyway, there's a new browser out, and that new browser is called Brave. Anybody ever heard of it? I hadn't either till I found this from Digital Trends. And the reason it's interesting is because they did an initial offering to raise funds. They secured $35 million for an ad-free browser. I haven't had a chance to look at the browser, but if anybody's interested, we've got different ways of making the browser work for us. And there's a lot of sites we have links to sometimes. The ads, you got to mute your machine because this stuff starts coming through and all you hear is this noise. Very annoying. Another interesting article Dwayne sent us, because we're always interested in these mobile devices. And I'm going to get a mic on Dwayne. I want to get his take on this device. This is because I hadn't had a chance to read it yet, from Engadget, the Eve 5.
Right, it's a crowdsourced computer.
Well, that makes it even more interesting.
It is. Apparently, Microsoft has even helped them get off the ground. I think they raised $1.25 million, which isn't very much. It's a nice machine. It's got good specs. It certainly will compete with the Surface Pro. It's going to start out around $800, but the bottom line is you can have all this talk, but putting it into production
that's my next question.
That's going to be the hard part.
How far out are they, do you think?
Hard to say. They've doesn't sound to me like they've got enough money to get into any serious production.
What was their target?
They didn't really say.
Interesting. Well, the reason I mention this because one device that we did watch for a while that I think was crowdfunded was that camera that John Lumb, I think your sister-in-law bought, that's just now finally coming out. Extraordinary camera, but that was originally a crowdfunded camera. I don't remember the name of it, but very, very interesting piece of technology. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. So I appreciate you sharing that with us. Let's go back over there to Joe's computer for the talking points. Thanks, Dwayne. Now, this is the one that's going to really get some people talking. And I'm going to go up here to talking point number 19. Dwayne sent this Science Daily Technology. Technology edits voices like text. That sounds great, but it scares the bejesus out of me because you can see the other side of that. When someone says, "Can you hear me now?" and you say yes, they don't even need you to say yes. They just need you to keep you talking because they can synthesize the voice and have you say anything they want you to say. That's extremely scary. I mean, you think when this all started, it was very innocent, but this could be problematic. But I appreciate Dwayne sending it. And I also found some interesting information from Adobe, who looks like, I don't know if it's the same product, but it's got the same name. Do you know anything about that, Dwayne? I don't, other than... Can we get the mic on Dwayne? Where's the mic? Oh, thank you.
As I recall in the article, I mentioned a couple of major corporations like Adobe were doing, I guess you'd say, expanding on this work and doing comparable projects. Don't really know what stage of development they're in, though.
Curious. Y'all remember a program called Cool Edit? Does anybody remember a program called Cool Edit? Back in the day, How PC, when we had the general meetings, we had Cool Edit come to the meeting. And within about 90 days, Cool Edit then was purchased by Adobe. And that is now Adobe's audio program. That was a wonderful program. Now, what they were trying to show didn't work at the meeting, but it worked beforehand. But during the live meeting, it didn't work. But it was a great program. But it's an Adobe program. Thank you for leaving me a backup shot, Lou. Okay. Back over to the specs. I've got a link up here on the article that Dwayne sent us. I've got a link up to Ars Technica. Where Adobe demos this program, which is like Photoshop for audio. And then I've also got a link up on YouTube to the same, and then an actual link to the Adobe project Voco. And it's Voco Beta. If anybody's interested, I guess you can still get into it. In some of my searches, it showed up depending on what I was looking for, but not always. I found that quite curious. Okay, we'll move on up from that. Now, Robert sent us one about understanding the M.2. I don't know if we're ever going to finish this thing with the M.2 because you hear and read so many things that we have to figure out and understand. But what I'm saying, M.2 SSDs are kind of like Thunderbolt in the sense that we're going to probably always be going over this and reiterating this is what it's supposed to do, but this is what it's actually doing, which are two different things. So some great technology. And again, when I'm building a laptop or looking to buy a laptop, that's one of the things I'm looking for. I want that stick of chewing gum on there because I can get a nice small drive in a very small place that holds a lot of stuff. If I've got it on my desktop, why can't I get it on my laptop? I like it M.2. I like it M.2 of about maybe 512 to 1 terabyte, depending on what's going on. I like dedicated graphics. That's two of the things I like. Touchscreen, if it's there, I'll take it. 4K, I like the idea of it, but I'm not, I could go either way on that. But I'd also like to have, and this is kind of funny coming from me, when you buy a laptop, a lot of them have Windows 10 Home. Well, granted I could upgrade, but there goes a license for that machine. So that's something else I'm looking for. If I'm getting a laptop, I want Windows 10 Pro on there. I don't want Home. So as that list grows, you can see how when you change one of those things, changes everything. I was going through some of that, even the size of the screen. The bigger the screen, more battery, heavier it is to carry around. But for doing the things I've mentioned, where I'm going to be able to run the switch with it, I'm going to be able to stream with it, and I want to be able to render with it, I prefer a larger screen. Now, that also gets to battery. You ever notice a lot of laptops don't tell you how big the battery is? You ever seen that? And that was one of the things Nick Treade said about this. It's so small and tiny, the Asus is in, the battery's built in. But he said that battery lasts. Now, at some point, that battery is going to go dead. And when it does, then we're going to have issues with how do we get that battery out and replace it. It's not going to be an easy thing to do. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. It's something to think about when you're looking at a laptop. Anybody use mail washer?
I did, but I pretty much quit.
Not using it now?
No, because I'm using 6.5.4, something like that.
Wow. And it's just upgraded to 7.1.
Yeah, and it got so it would not read. You pull up Mail Washer and you ask it to delete these 5 or 10 or whatever 20
Yes.
emails. Then you go from there to your mail program,
Yes.
and they're still there.
No good. No good.
So that's why I quit using it.
Interesting. Well, the reason I mention it, Mail Washer, which is put up by Fire Trust, the paid version, had a little link in that email that I found really, really curious. And I'm going to show you what that link was on the website. Thank you. For example, when we use Thunderbird, it'll go over and interrogate and give you the information you need because if you're not sure what your settings are for the server, well, that's what this link is. Emailsettings.email. Free email settings lookup for POP, IMAP, and SMTP. That's pretty neat. You put in your email address, it'll go interrogate the server, and it'll give you that information. I think that's pretty handy. Most people don't remember that. It's difficult enough when you ask somebody when they're having trouble with their email. My first question is, okay, are you using an email client or are you using webmail? And when they go, what? That tells me a lot. What number was that for email on your list? Let's see, on the talking points, that is number 17 on talking points for today. So instead of having to bring up the email client that not everybody uses, some people may use Babb for whatever reason, you can go to this link, which is number 17 on the talking points. And again, that URL is emailsettings.email, E-M-A-I-L. I just found that extraordinarily handy. I hope you get your 2 cents worth today. And I want to thank everybody online for participating. We gained another subscriber, and I want to thank that person for subscribing. Somebody found value in what we did last week. And I want to thank Vicki. Where is Vicki? Vicki, thank you again for letting us do that last week to be a part of Tommy's birthday. That was fun. Now, like I said earlier, do we have to wait a year to do that again? You're sweet. Tommy, thank you for sharing. We enjoyed your birthday. I told Mom I was going to ask Vicki what time was supper, but because, man, that was good. I've got a link up here on, and I'm not quite sure how to, I'll just let you read it, number 13, Digital Trends. New technology lets you speak with people that have passed on. It is a, well, It's an interesting technology because it reminds me of some of the stuff we've seen in the movies. Do y'all remember that movie that talked about the time machine? Anybody ever see that movie?
Time machine?
I believe it was the Time Machine. The original version from the
The H.G. Wells type time machine?
yes. The original version where I think the fascinating thing was the gold rings they turned on the table and they talked. And then when they updated the movie in the new version, he was talking to a hologram that was part of the library on this glass panel. Y'all remember that? Well, that's what this reminds me of. Yes. It was just fascinating. It was kind of freaky, but it was fascinating because we always talk about technology being Star Trek kind of stuff. And here's something from H.G. Wells' Time Machine in the original and more specifically in the updated version that talks to this. And this is a link. New technology lets you speak with the deceased. If you go to the actual link, it lets you speak with the deceased from the Holocaust. And I just found that extraordinary. When you think a lot of kids, and we've got a lot of adults right now where that time of World War II is passing, those are things that should never be forgotten. Where young people can interact with people that have left us. I just think that's an extraordinary technology and capability. But there's the article there. You can take a look at it, see what you think of it. Moving on, I've got a link up to the Panasonic, that new camera I told you about, under $8,000, which I'm excited about. And I've got an article here from Newegg, which is kind of unusual. Y'all ever read some of the stuff Newegg puts out? This is a link about EK. We've been keeping track of EK water blocks. Since we've been doing this, talking liquid cooling and looking for laptops that do liquid cooling and trying to figure out how we can get a computer that'll be quiet and heat-free. And now we can do liquid cooling in a closed system or in a system like this we can put together without spending a phenomenal price. When this liquid cooling stuff first came out, you could put as much money into liquid cooling as you do the computer. I was not into that. But what EK Water Blocks is doing, I think is pretty slick. So there's an article about this. Newegg is going to be selling that product. For the streaming industry, I've got a link up from Tech Connect for HDR. They're more into that than they are 4K. You can read about it. And the Hexus, again, some stuff about Intel and AMD. AMD is preparing the Threadripper, and Intel is doing the new Core X. I just love the fact, how long has it been since we've had a good CPU war? 20 years?
Almost.
Yeah, almost 20 years. And you know, it's interesting what parallels that. When we had Comdex, which is now gone, in 2000, and then Comdex disappeared 2 years later, it's taken the trade show industry this long to recover from 9/11, 9/11/01. Because the stuff going at the trade shows is the kind of stuff we used to get back then. Got a memory stick? How are we doing on your machine? Are we up yet? You got it cloned? No.
About 10% or so.
Oh, wow. So we may not be able to get through all this today. Okay. Thank you for getting me back up. Okay, so I've got some specs up on Office. If anybody's trying to find the updates to Office, there's a link for it. There's a bunch of updates. And the reason I did this, Mel was asking, do you have this version of Office and do you have those updates for that version? I said, you know, wow. Can we get a mic over there? The link up on Office is number 15 in the talking points. I'd zoom in, but I don't know if we got Zoom set on Joe's computer. No. We don't? Okay. And then I've got a link up, you know, and we talk about Dell. Dell computers, a lot of time, the laptops, it's easier to go find the specs at somebody else's site. So what I did, based on the information Mel gave me for her laptop that she's still working on, and I hope we may get to talk to her in a little bit about it, I've got a link up to B&H Photo about the Dell 15-inch XPS 9550 that Mel has. Now, I don't know if this is the same model. I'm going to hold down the control key. Well, 9550 is what she got. So what's this year's model? 9560 makes sense. Now this on this particular site, I've got an 8 gig, a 16 gig, and a 32 gig. Now this particular model, based on what Mel was doing, I believe Mel had a 256 gig SSD in there, and she's changing that SSD out to a 512 gig. Is that right?
That's right. But I can't change it out unless I have a Torx 5, which I'm about ready to find out if a store that's 3/10 of a mile from here has. And if it does, I'll go get it right now.
Torx. You know, I didn't think about that. I've got a set of Torx, but I don't keep them with me. I use them like once every 5 years. Yeah, that's a tiny little rascal. Teeny. The only thing I keep with me is a number 1 Phillips, and that's rare that I use that. But to have a number 5 Torx, wow. Yeah. In fact, I think the last time I used those was on a compact. It's been longer than 10 years since I've used those. I'm not even sure where they're at. They're sitting somewhere on a shelf where I can find them, but for the life of me, I'm not sure, and I'll have to go look for them. Anyway, this looks kind of like what Mel has, but I'm not sure that that's the particular model. It's interesting, this Dell 15-inch XPS 159550, it's more expensive to get it with 8 gigs and a 256 gig SSD than if you bought it with 16 gigs and a 1 terabyte. 1700 versus 1500. Go figure. And then they've got another that's got 32 gigs. But I like to be able to go to B&H, and I can get a pretty good idea looking at the pictures. I see a memory slot, I see a USB. See if we can go around to the other side. And it doesn't give me, it may give me some of them. I like to look at the connectors physically before I go looking at the specs. That's as far as I can zoom in. So I see a USB, a couple of USB on the other side, and it looks like that may have, yeah, it looks like it may have Thunderbolt on, as Joe was saying. Something else just caught my eye on the graphics. Okay, this is NVIDIA GeForce GTX 9660. Okay, it's got 2 gigs of RAM. I would prefer to have 4 gigs, but then again, I want to use this to be able to render with. So I have a little bit more I'm trying to do. And yes, this does have a Thunderbolt. And Mel is going to be connecting a couple of external monitors. Infinity Edge display, Thunderbolt 3. And this is the Thunderbolt 3 full bandwidth, 40 gigabit. And all the other stuff. And it's got Windows 10 Home. So I'm not a fan of Windows 10 Home. I could upgrade it, but if I can, not that one, there's nothing there, Lou. Let's go to another screen. So if I had a chance and I was looking at a laptop, that's something that could be disconcerting for me, because if I had the option, the 2 gigs of RAM for the video, I'd rather have 4. The Windows 10 Home, I'd rather have Pro. I'm throwing these things out because anybody looking at a laptop, the more you do this, the easier it's going to get. Yes, Dwayne?
Dell offers an upgrade to Windows Pro for $50 on all the high-end laptops.
Now, see, $50 I like, but when you do that, you've got to buy it direct from Dell. You can't go buy it from someplace like B&H Photo, or can you?
Isn't there a website out there that sells you just the keys for
Yes.
a very low price?
Micro Center
Yes.
might do it.
Yes.
But
Yeah, let's see, when Bill bought his key, Bill, do you remember what you paid for your Windows 10 key? I want to say it was like 30. Okay, $50 or $60. Sounds about right. And you know, you're buying it online, you're buying the key, you're buying it on a credit card. If you don't get the key, they don't get paid. They get paid, you get your key, everybody's happy. So all you need is the key. As long as we can download the ISO or get the memory stick. But you've got to have the key. Because when you change from Home to Pro, that's a new key. They want to keep you wherever you're at. And I want to upgrade. So, something to think about. There's nothing on that screen. Thank you. To give you some idea, folks, what's going on our connections are set up differently, and when you see that black screen, that's the screen that I've got set up for graphics, and I'm going to have to fix that later so that it can't be seen, so that I will see it, but whoever's running the switch won't see it. When you figure we've got a switch that has 20 inputs and we see 8 of them at a time, I'll have to put that on the monitor, but I'm just letting everybody know what's going on. Okay, so much for that. Windows 10 Home. Windows Continuum, yeah. Dwayne, when you got your Dell, did you buy it direct from Dell?
I did.
Okay. And Mel stepped out. Okay, when she comes back, I want to find out where she got hers from. I'm kind of under the impression, oh, she bought from Micro Center. Interesting. Based on everything she had that was all Dell, I was under the impression that she bought it direct from Dell. It's interesting. Last time I worked with an attorney who was doing Dells, he picked up the phone one night and ordered half a dozen Dells. He's not using Dells right now, but that was 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, Dell, Micro Center has a special Dell center where they have Dell equipment. Unfortunately, they tend not to get most of the up-to-date machines. They've got the lower priced end, but in terms of the latest XPS 9560 and all, they don't get them till later in the game.
Interesting. But then again, you want the latest, you pay a premium for the latest.
Well, I'm sure you can order it through them, but they don't carry them in stock, and it's like so many things in the stores. I guess the store is, when they buy it, they got to sell it.
True.
And I'm a racquetball player, and they used to have all the wonderful rackets that you wanted, high priced, go to any sporting goods store. Well, the reason they were there was because they were on consignment. So the manufacturers stopped doing that. If you buy it, it's yours. So now you go to any Academy or any of those, and all they have are low-end rackets that they're sure they're able to sell.
Yeah, makes sense, understandable. Not the ideal situation for the user, but understandable for the store. Okay, let's go back over to the talking points. Thank you. I'm going to go back over to build or buy. Thanks, Dwayne. Remember, folks, it takes all of us to make this work, and I appreciate everybody's support and everybody being here, because somebody sees something that somebody else might not, but somebody else might benefit from it. How many of you are on Comcast? Okay. Did that outage last week affect anybody here?
Yeah.
Lots of you. How long was that out last week? 5 minutes?
No, mine was out like 5 or 6 hours.
5 or 6 hours? How about you, Jack? How long were you out?
When are we talking about?
Comcast.
Yeah, but when?
It was last weekend. Actually, it was last week between, I think, Wednesday and Sunday.
Oh, I had
Can we get a mic?
a power failure on Sunday night 10 days ago. But
You had a power failure from, there's a mic, Jack, there's a mic. Thanks, Robert.
the lights went out.
Well, that was nice. Power company?
Hmm?
Power company?
I don't know.
When,
I had one at my house too.
It was out like for an hour and a half or so.
Tommy, yours was just the television. Interesting. Are you on Comcast or UVerse? You're on Comcast, okay. I'm always curious, always checking, because Comcast, it can be a real pain. UVerse will come back up pretty quickly. We had a power outage that was out for a while. It came back up, but we had different times. We had this issue with Comcast. So when Comcast goes out, I just go change over to UVerse to keep going. I don't get bandwidth. It's like riding down the road, with a stick and two balls. You're balancing it back and forth. But I get down the road, I can get on the internet. I wouldn't download nothing, but I can get on the internet.
We just got a new deal at the Funny Farm with Comcast. They're now supplying us with HD and the basic package at no charge.
HD.
Yeah.
Interesting. How'd you do that?
I don't know, some kind of a deal Eagles Trace cut with them. And as a result, I got the HD overcharge removed from my bill.
Nice.
And I turned in my satellite box because they'll supply a free one with the basic channels on it.
Good.
Which cut something else off, and I've now eliminated my phone from Comcast, and my net bill, including tax and fees now, is supposed to be about $69, and
Wow.
that's with 125 megabit
125 megabit?
broadband.
Wow, that is nice. I like that.
So
Anybody here on Uverse?
next step's going to be TiVo. Screw them again.
TiVo. I want to ask, when you get a TiVo, are you going to get one of the cards?
You have to.
Right. When you get that going, Jack, would you let us know?
Yeah, that'll be a while.
But when you do, because if
I've
you
got a
don't
portable laptop to buy first.
details, but when you get to that point, I'd like to videotape that to walk through the process, because I think it's extremely fascinating, but it's also been extremely frustrating because you get different information from different sources at Comcast. One will tell you, yes, you can do it. Another will say, well, I guess you can do it, but we're going to charge you for it. But
Yeah,
if
but
we
so-
come out and do it, there's no charge for the card
I talked to somebody at the home,
at the home.
and they're paying
They let you out on Wednesdays.
$3 or $4 a month for the card,
Okay.
for the cable card.
Were they able to install it themselves, or did Comcast come out and install it?
I don't know.
Okay, I want to know that whole process, so when you get that far along, let me know if you don't mind. I think-
TiVo recommends online that you get 5 cards because 4 of them aren't going to work.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow. That's good to know.
then take back the 4 that you don't use.
Smart. Very smart. Yes, Robert.
While we're off topic, I'd like to ask a question. Is there anybody here with a motherboard that can take an NVMe drive, but you're not currently doing that? You're running off a rotating drive or an SSD, but you're hoping someday to stick in an NVMe? Anybody here in that category?
Nobody?
Okay.
Well, remember this. This is a very important question that Robert's asking. There will be some that will, because once you go that stick of chewing gum, based on my experience, you don't want to go back.
Well, the point is, I think I finally figured it out, and so I could explain it. But if there's nobody here thinking about doing that, I don't think it's worth anybody's time.
I think hold that thought, and we'll come back to it, because there will be some time later. And like I said, I hear you. M.2 and Thunderbolt are 2 things I don't see us stopping. I think we need to go over it whenever somebody asks, because it's going to be relevant. But it's not relevant until you need it. You know, there's a lot of things we've done. Someone said, I wish I'd have paid attention to that way back when. So I appreciate that offer, Robert. We'll have to go through that again for a Dog and Pony show. The reason I was asking the questions about Comcast and about Uverse and connections, how many of you are also on satellite? Anybody? Jack, you used to be. Bill? Did you all see the deal with Dish? Dish, I got an article here from Newsmax, ordered to pay $252 million to U.S. and states over their robocalls. Now, do you think the people they were bothering will ever see a dime of that?
Just the lawyers.
Yeah. Yeah, Robert.
Guys back here are saying I ought to write it down while I've got it. And just going to say it's in that email I sent you. It went to Fairhaven. So, I was going to use that if I was going to run through it now. But the point is, it is written down, and you have a copy.
Okay. I've got it on a machine up here, but because of the way I'm doing graphics without getting into the technical aspects of it, it'd be a little bit of a, well, I won't get into it, but I don't have easy access to it. Otherwise, somebody will bring it up on screen. We don't see that interface right now. Okay, so let's go back over to the talking points. But I just had to mention that to you. I thought it was crazy. I got a link up from Digital Trends about the new Vega AMD video chipset, and I wish AMD would get this thing going. For some reason, it's been delayed. They were showing it at Computex, but it doesn't matter how great it is. If you can't get your hands on it, you're going to have a need, and if your need is immediate, you're going to get what you can get your hands on. And because of the way all the software is written for CUDA cores, that lends me to an NVIDIA chipset. So I want to know what's going on with this chipset, but it's hard to justify the weight. And I've got a link up here on RedShark about the new Sony camera. You can read about that. And now we get into the stuff that Apple's doing. And this is, David Crook's not here today. How interesting. I wanted to save that for the very last thing. This big trade showing what Apple's doing. There's a link up on Apple's Surrey speaker. It's called a HomePod, for those that are interested in that. Anybody use the little device that Amazon has? You set up a couple, so you like it? Let's get a mic on. Let's get a mic on Jack. Thanks, Robert. It's coming to you. Reach over your shoulder. There you go.
My neighbors seem to like the dots that they got. One of them got it as a Father's Day gift or a birthday gift, and one got one last Christmas as a gift. They were easy to set up. I can't speak for the full speaker version, but for the little dot seems to work very well.
Is this something you think you'd be interested in yourself, or you just?
From what I've seen of it, OK Google works better than either Alexa or Siri. I use Siri on my iPad.
And how much is the Google?
The dot? It's free on your computer.
But you have to have your computer to use it.
No, you can get theirs is called Home.
Right. And
Google Home, I believe.
Yeah, and how much is that? Do you remember?
I don't know. I've only used it on the computer. But the thing I like about the Google arrangement is that you can ask a follow-up question, and it's smart enough to retain what you asked first and know that it refers to it.
Nice.
The others, you have to start from scratch each question you ask.
Wow. That would get annoying. Huh. I can make a comment about that, but I won't because I'm not married, so I'll be quiet about that. I think they call it selective hearing. Like I said, I'm not married, so you guys that are married know what I'm talking about. Bad joke?
It'd get you killed at my house.
I won't make any comments about that either. I'm going to say, who has the key to the locks on the guns? Just a joke. GameStar's got a link up on the best GeForce graphics cards. Now, we don't do gaming in here, but it's curious to notice there's a list of cards and how they see them interesting. And the last talking point I'll finish with, how are we doing on the clone?
We got to restart because we have the USB 3 over there and the USB 2 over here. So
Change ports. Okay, should have checked that ahead of time. Well, it's like watching grass grow or paint dry. The last talking point I've got up here is about the new Apple event, the WWDC. Apple's coming out with the new big iMac. If David had been here, I'm sure he could talk to us about it. But that's pretty much the stuff that's been going on right now. I was in hopes we were going to do more with this laptop that we're trying to upgrade. But, you know, again, this is live and things don't always go like we want them to. How far along are you on the clone now that you started over? 22%?
It's a lot faster than before. But
Oh, absolutely.
I should have started from here.
Well,
we've been done by now.
Right. I was too busy doing other things to help you figure out what the ports were. That's a funny thing. On a desktop, your USB 3 is a blue port. On a laptop, they're all either one black or gray or something like that. So unless you know or unless you looked at your specs.
I looked at my spec just now.
That's how you found out. Okay. And is Mel Babb back yet? Mel is not back yet. Okay, so we'll open up to any questions. Anybody have any questions? Don't everybody ask them at once. Now, we had a guest today. Andrew brought his great-niece? Great-great-niece. Okay, I hope she didn't find this too painfully difficult. I was in hopes we might have some stuff she might find more interesting, but I hope she'll come back. Did you find the switch interesting? Interesting piece of technology. I'm glad you got a chance to see that because some schools have been using some of this technology to do their events where they interface with their AV and their school events like their football team and put some of that stuff up on screen. You may start seeing some of that in the school that you're at. I don't know. I think it's been out at Sci-Fair. I'm not sure if HISD or if Spring Branch. I'm not even sure if Katy is using it. But I know that Sci-Fair was doing some of that. And when we've seen it on the news, I found it absolutely fascinating. The fact that we can do this. And, you know, this all started because we needed a better way to get information up the projector. And, of course, now we're streaming the event live. So, any questions? Okay, if we don't have any questions, then I guess I'm done. Folks, thanks for coming. I hope you enjoyed it. We look forward to, homework. We got some homework. Okay, what is today? Today is, let me look at the date. We've got to do a little bit of homework. Now that we've got the time for it. Okay, today's the 7th. Next week is the 14th. Remember, next week, Joe is not going to be here. Since Joe is not going to be here, I'm going to take the day off because I have a video shoot the very next day on the 15th, and I can't do this and that on it's just too demanding. So there will be no build or buy next week. I'll try to get something up online, something short, just to say hi, what's going on. I'll at least have some talking points up on build or buy on the websites, builderbuy.org and builderbuy.net. But there will be no live meeting next week, but we'll be back the following week. Now, Joe will be gone for 2 weeks.
Well, I don't know about the 14th now.
Oh,
I've got them, they're both going to be here at the same time.
get a mic up.
The schedule was my youngest daughter was going to be here from Saturday to Saturday, and my oldest daughter gets here from Tuesday to Tuesday. So then my youngest daughter changed hers from Tuesday to Tuesday, I think, which means they'll both be here at the same time, which means I'll be freed up Wednesday, so I may be here Wednesday.
So you want to still come and have a meeting at the 14th?
Yeah, if I'm able to.
Okay. I can't.
Oh no, then I'm going to end up with a bunch of things to do.
Okay. So we won't have a meeting then the 14th, but what about the 21st? Is that when you're
I
going
thought
to?
you said the church was going to have their deal here.
Well, the church is going to be doing some remodeling. I'll get to that, but I'm dealing with our thing
Oh,
first.
I'm definitely free the 21st.
Okay, so we'll be back here on the 21st. So we're going to skip one meeting, which will be next week, but we'll be here the following week, which will be the 21st. So we'll be here the 21st, and hopefully we're going to be here the 28th. We're going to have to take it a week at a time because here's what's going on. Fairhaven, oh, you finally got your screwdriver. Congratulations, Mel. Fairhaven, is merging with another congregation. That other congregation has been looking at the facilities, and they want to do some upgrades. So the room where we meet is where they're going to do these upgrades because they want to have, by the fall, a contemporary fellowship in here of 200 people. Because what's required for us to put our meeting all together, we can go to other rooms, but this is the best room for us to be in. So what I'm proposing, we're going to take it a week at a time, but I'm proposing for July that we not meet and come back in August. Because for us to move to a different room, the other congregation has also offered for us to go over to their congregation for a place to meet. But I'm concerned about the amount of time, and because this is so easy for our crew to get in and out, that I think it's easier for us to meet here. And I appreciate them. They've been very kind and gracious about it. But I think if we're just out of the way so they can do what they need to do. So I'm just telling you guys, we're going to take it a week at a time. And probably for next month, we won't meet. But we don't know all that etched in stone yet. But I'll try to have something up each week. So I'll get Lou to send out a broadcast message to everybody that's on the mailing list for Build or Buy. And if you want to sign up to be a part of that mailing list, you can contact us on the website, builderbuy.org or builderbuy.net. You can send us an email if you want, gboyd@builderbuy.net. And we'll put you on the list. And when something's going on and we're not going to meet, we'll let you know. Because when you get a message from YouTube about the videos, it's only after we put a video up. So to reiterate, no meeting next week, but we'll be back on the 21st. And 21st and 28th. So any questions? So, folks, thanks for coming. Hope you enjoyed it. We look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. Y'all have a great day. And we are now signing off. Thanks for joining us online. And if you enjoyed this, please subscribe. Thumbs up. Have a great day. See you in 2 weeks.